Last time on the Kingdom Hearts Retrospective. And it's here that we find out that Maleficent from Cinderella I told you this was going to be a mistake. So, everyone, welcome back to the Kingdom Hearts Retrospective. The wait for Kingdom Hearts 2 took quite a while after the first game, so in the meantime we got ourselves a Kingdom Hearts 1.5, I guess you could say. And with that game it was... No, not that 1.5. I hate the names for Kingdom Hearts titles. In 2004, Square, who is now married to Enix, considering the whole taking the name thing, released Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories for the Game Boy Advance. Given the popularity of the handheld, a portable Kingdom Hearts game made a lot of sense, but interestingly enough, going forward to 2008, the game got a full-on remake on PlayStation 2 in response to Chain of Memories. Oh, why is there a re in the title? That makes no damn sense. I hate you, Square Enix! I'll talk more about the original version later on. In the meantime, thankfully, Kingdom Hearts 1.5, this one has that PS2 remake. So without further ado, let's dive into Chain of Memories. I hope you guys start believing in the heart of the cards. After defeating Ansem at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora, Goofy, and Donald are walking down this grassy path, only to stumble across Pluto holding a letter with Mickey's seal on it, and they begin to chase after him. And also, real quick, I have to point this out. Pluto! You okay, man? Later that night, a hooded figure leads Sora and crew to Castle Oblivion, which mysteriously causes the crew to lose all of their skills and memories as soon as they enter, and are forced to rely on the castle's memory-based card system. Yeah, guys, you better get used to seeing this whole card thing. The entire game is based on them. Sora then begins to use cards based on the worlds he once visited before to return there, since in this castle, memories can somehow manifest themselves into entire worlds thanks to the cards? Yeah, I don't really know either. Each of these worlds take up one floor of the castle, and as it turns out, the higher up that Sora goes, the more his memories get manipulated. Goofy, Donald, and even Jiminy all lose memories, but Sora actually gains memories that slowly begin to replace Kairi with another girl named Naminé. And why is that? Well, introducing Organization 13. Oh boy, here we go. Organization 13 is filled with a bunch of people dressed up in black hoodies with an overall goal that doesn't really start to show itself until Kingdom Hearts 2. And I would say it's 13 people, since that's where the number 13 comes from, but it gets really complicated. One of the members, Marluxia, boy, isn't he pretty, has a plan to take over the entire organization, and he wants control of Sora and his Keyblade to do so. I mean, he even uses a pink scythe as his weapon, and he expels cherry blossoms from it. Marluxia is the prettiest anime. So he gets Naminé, whose reason for existence is also fairly vague until KH2, to put the idea into Sora's mind that she needs saving, and he can only do that by going further in the castle, losing more real memories in the process. Oh hey look, a star symbol again. Fancy that. And along the way, he'll run into other organization members who either try to further Sora's manipulation, or try to stop him entirely with the hopes of ending Marluxia's attempt to control the entire group. So Sora traverses through Castle Oblivion to, quote, save Naminé, find out what's happening to his memories, and deal with the organization, mainly Marluxia. Boy, isn't he pretty. Have I lost you yet? Probably! Now, I'm pretty sure the story is basically just this civil war that takes place within the organization, with Sora and Riku merely being pawns. You got Marluxia trying to take over the group with the help of Larxene, there's Vexen, Lexius, and Zexion trying to stop that from happening, and then Axel just sort of chilling out in the middle. And I am very proud of myself for memorizing all those names. But how does that group within the organization try to stop Marluxia? I'm glad you asked. Well, that brings us to Riku. We're not done with the story yet. This was a mistake. Going back once again to Kingdom Hearts 1, at the end, Riku trapped himself in the realm of darkness, and while floating in an empty void of emptiness, a special card transports him to the basement of Castle Oblivion. He soon finds out there is still darkness in his heart in the form of Ansem, the big bad guy from last time. And with such a potential of great power there, Vexen notices, and by fighting him for a little bit, he manages to get enough data to create a replica Riku, who constantly tries to stop Sora in his tracks, making Sora even believe that he is the real Riku in the process, and that he is the one who should save Naminé instead. But never fear, Mickey Mouse shows up to lend his support too, although, really, in this case, it kinda just boils down to, hey, I'm here too. So now, Riku travels through the bottom floors of the castle, mainly just to see why he was brought there in the first place, constantly battling the darkness inside him along the way, and taking out some organization members who even really cares about them. Now on to the game itself. Level progression is very similar to Kingdom Hearts 1, down to the fact there are no original Disney worlds here. They are all exactly the same as before, except for the lack of Tarzan. Yeah, interestingly enough, Disney doesn't own the copyrights for the Tarzan world or characters. The deal that they had ended after KH1, which would explain the separate mention before KH1's title screen, and the fact that there has been no mention of Tarzan in the series since. You start off in Traverse Town, and quickly realize that the game tries to retell an abridged version of your first visit, and this is the same for every world. There are no voice-acted cutscenes, no pieces of story that tie back to what happens in the castle itself, and while most of the stories are familiar, some of the events happen slightly differently than what you remember. I guess maybe due to the restrictions of the Game Boy Advance, such as no fight with Cerberus in Olympus Coliseum, and no swimming in Atlantica. Actually, that's probably a good thing. Just wait until we get to Kingdom Hearts 2. The areas have no real form of exploration either. You see this basic square-shaped room that I'm in? That's basically the whole game. There's some modifications here and there, but in terms of level design, everything sort of just bleeds together. I love this part in particular. Is it just me, or are all the rooms starting to look the same? Yeah, you don't say! As a result, traveling to the worlds you may have already been to that are now just a long series of small square rooms makes a heavy majority of this game feel like filler. Especially since the only bits of storytelling in these worlds happen in rooms that are specifically designed to be story rooms and nothing more. So you're either watching a cutscene or you're grinding. That's about it. You can choose the order of worlds you want to go into, which, I mean, that sounds neat, but that just means the difficulty doesn't really change aside from the moments outside of those worlds. Everything in between segments inside the castle just feel like Square Enix is going, hey, you remember Kingdom Hearts 1? Though they did also bring back 100 Acre Wood with a whole new batch of minigames, so that's pretty cool, maybe. Kinda. Perhaps I am looking for nobody. You're looking for nobody? Foreshadowing? What I think is really cool though, is that after you get through all the Disney worlds, and before a visit to a heartless-filled Destiny Islands, Sora travels to Twilight Town, the first location of KH2. It's pretty cool because considering this came out before that game, this was an entirely new and mysterious world, and I don't know, it sort of added a bit more anticipation to the sequel to see more of what Twilight Town had to offer and why it was even here in the first place. And I like that. Now, something that is sort of interesting to say out loud, Chain of Memories is actually a pseudo-dungeon crawler. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. Again, you travel through rooms that are very, very similar in structure, and to move between them, you have to use one or multiple cards to open up a door.
The door is open.
Don't you dare! The door will tell you the numerical value you need, but you have a choice to the type of room that you want to go into. Some cards dictate how many enemies will show up, if physical or magic attacks are more effective than the other, or maybe you just want some time to relax with a save room or a Moogle shop where no Heartless show up. Hey there, Moogle, what's on the shop today? Oh, it's cards, of course. Why did I expect any different? And how do you get these door cards? Well, battling, of course, and here's where things get a little bit more interesting. Cards are essential for fighting as well. Battles are in real time, despite taking place in a different screen now, but each move uses a card in your deck, which you have full control of how it's laid out. For example, you have a wide assortment of different keyblades with varying levels of strength, magic attacks, summons, potions, plenty more, and their number value means that if you were to, say, use a card with a 2 on it, the opponent can cancel that move out with a 3 or above, or a 0, and you could do the same to them. What you could also do is attach 3 cards together to either do an auto combo or a special move, which adds all 3 values together on the spot at the cost of being unable to get those cards back in your deck when you reshuffle. Unless you have an elixir in your deck, which reshuffles even with those cards. There are enemy cards as well that can be used as passive abilities for a few reshuffles, such as increased card value, regenerating health, and many more. But there's also a limit to what cards can be in your deck. Each card also has a cost value, and you can't surpass your deck's overall cost value, unless you choose to raise it when you level up. So while this does add a bit of stylistic complexity that barely any other RPG goes for, it is kinda satisfying to play the entire game through with a deck that you build. I mean, most of it is probably just gonna be regular attacks stacked on top of each other, but hey, they're my regular attacks. So similar to the story, I feel like the gameplay sounds more complicated than it really is. Like I said back in Kingdom Hearts 1, while that game was really fun, it lacked strategy when it comes to your moveset. On the other hand, now Chain of Memories does have a level of strategy, but it comes at the risk of being really, really repetitive. If the level designs being incredibly identical didn't give that away, once you have an idea of how to lay out your deck, regardless of which Heartless you fight, there's just not much reason to change up your strategy for most of the game once you have one set out. But to be fair, what you did before could be totally different than what I did. Dumbo, I choose you! The deadly, devastating Dumbo. So while exploring the worlds is simply monotonous, the battles are actually fairly enjoyable. I mean, granted, if you play more than one world in a sitting, you are liable to go insane, but in short bursts, it's manageable. Until you fight that replica Riku. The end of world bosses are fine, mostly because they're very similar to how they were in Kingdom Hearts 1. And even when you have Larxene and Vexen, who are pretty annoying, pulling zeros and pretty strong moves out of nowhere, everything pales in comparison to fighting Replica Riku 4 damn times! Cards that break your moves and attack so fast you have no time to dodge, moves that attack long distance, meaning a defensive strategy doesn't really work either, a stupid amount of health, Riku can burn in hell! Oh, but we're not done yet. By beating Sora's story, you unlock Riku's story, Reverse Rebirth, which the name actually makes a bit of sense. You go in reverse order through the castle, and this is Riku's rebirth from darkness, I guess. I don't really know. Riku actually plays quite a bit differently than Sora. Your deck is now preset depending on the world that you're in, so there's no more getting cards and swapping them in and out. However, what is new is focusing on leveling up your dark meter to transform and perform stronger attacks mid-battle. There's also this card duel mode that shows up when you break an enemy's card with one of the same value. These changes do make Riku play slightly differently than Sora, but for the most part the game is basically the same. Slightly different gameplay mechanics and a slightly different story, that's about it. Luckily, however, said story also moves by a lot faster. Sora's takes roughly 20 or so hours to complete, and Riku's less than 10. That's very nice. But is it even worth playing through this extra mode? Not really. I appreciate giving Riku his own playable story arc, but considering it's kind of a retread of Sora's arc, which is already a retread of Kingdom Hearts 1, I tapped out of this pretty quick. Okay, it's time to wrap up the story, and this is kind of important because both endings are basically required to understand a few plot points of Kingdom Hearts 2. After destroying Larxene and Vexen, only dealing with Axel since he is far, far from gone for good, And with Namine's and even replica Riku's help, everybody sends their energy to Sora, and it's time to take out Marluxia. Boy, isn't he pretty.
You would knowingly shackle your heart with a chain of memories born of lies?
You cheeky little. After a difficult and, as expected, multi-form battle against Marluxia, the final of which is a right pain in the ass, the, at the time, prettiest anime becomes the deadiest anime. Sora and Namine promise to meet again, sealing it with a pinky swear, only the most reliable of promise seals, and Sora begins his long snooze. Spoiler alert, Sora forgets Namine. So much for that pinky swear! Meanwhile, Riku takes down any organization member that stands in his way while still trying to control his inner darkness. Along the way, he finds this guy Diz, a mysterious fellow who helps guide Riku to Namine, who apparently has the ability to eliminate the darkness inside him. Before that, however, he runs into his replica, who, once again by the way, should burn in hell, and quickly takes him out for good. Once he finally meets up with Namine, he has a choice to either follow Sora and to take that long nap, or go out and deal with his problems on his own. And of course, being the loner he is, he, alongside Mickey Mouse, choose the latter. But first, Riku chooses to fight Ansem. Ansem gets defeated once again, promising to return again, and the team combo of silver-haired angst and round ears set forth on a new adventure, ending Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Oh, and then you get this little tease showing off a new character in Twilight Town. Square Enix proving once again they kinda knew how to hype up the upcoming Kingdom Hearts game. But it just gets so complicated from here. Overall, the game is alright. Back during Kingdom Hearts 1, I said that Chain of Memories was a spin-off, and people didn't really seem to know why I said that. The Kingdom Hearts series is filled with games that are totally important to the overall plot, and some titles that contain few vital plot points and kinda just seem to be there for the sake of having more games in the series. Mainly just these three. And maybe this one. I'm not entirely sure what this is. Now, saying that alone is probably bound to upset some people, so I'll go into more detail on that at a later time. When it comes to Chain of Memories, again, the fighting is pretty fun for both Sora and Riku, but there is no real reason to play this game at all if you have played Kingdom Hearts 1, unless you are purely interested in the okay story. And what sucks about that is unless you know what happens to the main characters at the end, as well as what Castle Oblivion is, story elements in the future just won't make a whole lot of sense. Just a heads up, Castle Oblivion is really important. Luckily, this already comes packaged with the first game on PS3, so at that point, it can't really hurt to give a shot. If you lack a PS3, however, then that's really up to you at that point. But now I really quickly want to go over the original version on Game Boy Advance. Now, in terms of content and story, I am pretty sure it's mostly the same. It's basically just a cool little novelty to play a Kingdom Hearts game on the Game Boy Advance, with really well done sprite work, might I add. Perhaps being portable excuses a few of the complaints about being really repetitive, but anyway, I only bring this up to actually give Square Enix a bit of credit. I mean, when you look at all of gaming, how often do games get as full-blown of a remake as Chain of Memories had? Sure, it reuses all of the assets from the first game and doesn't do anything extravagant with them, but the fact they made a ton of new, fully animated and voice-acted cutscenes show how dedicated they were to making this game feel proper on a home console. So regardless of my feelings on the game as a whole, much respect to Square Enix for at least putting in the effort. And that brings us to the end. I know I kept a few details pretty vague, but honestly, I'm keeping things as vague as the series is. The problem with Kingdom Hearts is that while stretching a popular franchise to be on multiple systems is totally fine, telling your fanbase to go between consoles and portables to play games that are not direct sequels but are still required to know what's going on isn't, and Chain of Memories is the first example of that. Things thankfully begin to make a lot more sense, as well as getting a whole lot more questions with the next game. So, for the time being, we can retire 1.5 Remix, because it's time to move on to 2.5, because next time on the Kingdom Hearts Retrospective, we're moving on to Kingdom Hearts 2. This will probably be the longest video I have made yet. This has been a very big mistake. Have a good day. So Oh hey, look at that, the video actually ended! You know, I initially thought this video was going to be like 9 minutes long. Boy, I was wrong about that. But anyway, thank you all for watching. You can check out my last video as well as more of the retrospective by clicking here. You should follow me on Twitter, like and subscribe, you know the drill at this point. My patrons deserve a ton of love too. I've been able to do some pretty cool things thanks to their support, so if you are one of those guys, you're absolutely beautiful and I will continue to tell you that until the end of time. Status report, I'm already about 6 hours into playing Kingdom Hearts 2, but I swear making that video will be the end of me, so wish me luck! Bye bye!